Welcome to a new Detective Squirrel Investigates video, and in this video we will be looking into the mysterious frozen world of Lake Vostok. It was in 1957 when a team of Russian geologists led by Professor Andrei Kapitsa travelled to the frozen continent of Antarctica. They established Vostok Station to investigate an oddly flat section of ice. It was Kapitsa's theory that the reason the ice was flat was that beneath the ice sheet was a lake. According to Kapitsa's theory, if there was some geothermal activity, it is possible that the ice could have acted like an insulating blanket and the bottom of the ice could have melted to form a lake. The team set off explosive charges and recorded the sound as these sound waves from the explosions would travel through the ice, bouncing back off the bottom of the ice and again off the surface of the water, giving two distinct signals. They discovered that the ice was as much as 4 kilometres or 2.5 miles deep, and the sound wave didn't travel deep enough. They found nothing, so the Russians packed up and left. It was almost 20 years later when a British team went to Vostok Station in 1974 with their ground penetrating radar. They flew over a number of times to get readings, and on Christmas Day 1974 the results were in. 4 kilometres or 2.5 miles underneath the ice was indeed a lake half the size of Wales. But having such a huge amount of solid ice above it would mean that the lake was cold and dark. No light could penetrate that much ice. How could there possibly be any life? Well, that would depend on how it was formed. If Andrei Kapitsa's theory is correct, it's just the bottom of the ice that melted, and therefore would be no life. But a clue to its origins can be found in its shape. It's long and thin, just like rift lakes that have been formed by tectonic activity pulling land in opposite directions, ripping the land apart. These rifts would then fill with water, creating a rift lake, like Lake Malawi in Africa. This would put the creation of Lake Vostok at some 30 or 40 million years ago, at a time that the Antarctica, as we know it now, was a temperate zone. So there was plenty of time for life to form and evolve before the ice sheet covered it. But once it became dark, there was no light for the plant life. It would die. The creatures that fed on the plants would have lost their food source and they would die. The creatures that fed on those creatures would lose their food source and then they would die. The whole ecosystem would be in devastation. But would it? In cave systems that have never had light, in the deepest parts of the ocean, life has been found still thriving despite the lack of light. Life finds a way. Nature adapts. So it is still possible that Lake Vostok has life. But how do you find out? How do you make your way through all that ice? Well, Vostok Station is a drilling station collecting ice cores which tell a story of how our planet's atmosphere has changed over the many centuries. But drilling is a dirty business. To keep the drill hole open, oil-based kerosene is used. It also contains bacteria. If they if they broke through the ice into the lake, the bacteria and the kerosene would pollute the lake, destroying its purity. So how can it be done? Well, that's where NASA comes in. You may be asking why NASA would have any interest in a lake in Antarctica. Well, in 2003, almost 4 years after its initial launch, the Galileo probe reached Jupiter and also took close-up pictures of its largest moons, including Europa. The images of Europa showed that its surface was entirely covered in ice, but the shapes on the surface are reminiscent of the Arctic and Antarctic seas, or here on Earth. What's the significance? Well, those shapes indicate that under Europa's ice is a vast ocean. So if NASA can design a craft that can safely melt its way through the ice above Lake Vostok and launch a probe into the lost dark world, they would be able to send a similar craft and probe to Europa. Exciting stuff. But time will tell. Hope you enjoyed this video and again found it informative. In the meantime, this is Detective Squirrel out.